What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel for part 2 of What If Luke and Leia Were Born Before Order 66. Now I know it's been quite a while since I made part 1, and actually in that video I stated at the end that I was essentially going to leave the ending up to your guys' imagination, at least for a while before reassessing whether I wanted to make a part 2. But that video has actually been getting quite a bit of attention recently, and there have been a good amount of requests for a part 2, so because you guys appear to have enjoyed part 1, I have decided to finish this alternative timeline, and so with that being said, let's finish this. Anakin was beyond furious. Maul was failing to deliver anything worth mentioning, and while the two of them sat around contemplating how Sidious continued to elude them, the Sith Lord continued to gain more and more ground. The only reason Anakin even kept Maul around anymore was because of his familiarity with Sidious. He, of all people, would know where Palpatine may be hiding. But 3 weeks had passed since Luke and Leia had been taken, and still, Sidious remained in complete control. Anakin hadn't slept for more than an hour straight once in that time. He was exhausted. But for reasons he could not explain, his frustration gave him focus. The more he allowed his anger to shine through, the more in tune he felt with everything around him, and the closer he felt to finding his children. He was changing. In fact, part of him had already changed. He recognized this. He'd known for as long as he could remember that his pull to the dark side was far more significant than his peers. And now, on this night, on the rugged, hellish wasteland of Malachor, Anakin fully opened himself to the dark side of the Force. It poured through his veins as if some internal dam had just been opened. Maul circled Skywalker, encouraging the transition, insisting that this would provide the final piece to the puzzle, that Sidious was powerful, but through Anakin's rage, they would find him. And find him they did. The dark side gave Anakin clarity, and that newfound vision somehow connected him with his old mentor, and as they got closer, with his children too. They were young, far too young to differentiate between light and dark. Far too young to recognize the Force itself as any more significant than the air they were breathing. Yet, he could feel the dark energy oozing from them as he and Maul entered the room to see Darth Sidious, who stood with his back turned to them, the Skywalker twins in his arms, gazing out the window of his palace, back on Coruscant once again. He had circled his way back, ending his own headhunt right where it began. The truth was, Sidious was bored. He was way ahead of them, and he could have kept it that way forever if he wanted to. But this was never about the children. He would make use of them, of course. They were far too valuable to let go to waste. But at this point in time, they were nothing more than a diversion, and as he was pleased to learn, an additional motivator for Skywalker's fall. Anakin remained the grand prize. A younger Anakin may have charged Sidious without a second thought about the potential repercussions, but not anymore. Not here, not today, not with his children's lives hanging in the balance. Maul allowed Anakin to lead the conversation, allowing the situation to develop and waiting for his opportunity to strike. His failure on Naboo all those years ago had taught him patience, and despite his arrogance, he recognized that he was the proverbial runt in the room. Palpatine held all the cards. He was in control of this situation, but the arrival of the Jedi who were currently rushing toward them was about to alter the situation. He had to move quickly. Kenobi entered the room first, quickly followed by Ahsoka and then Yoda, who were all forced to stop in their tracks as they saw both Anakin and Palpatine standing at the edge of the Chancellor's office window, which had now been shattered. Maul's body lay on the floor with smoke billowing from his torso, killed by Anakin, who had never forgotten Maul and his murder of Qui-Gon Jinn all those years ago. He used the son of Dathomir to find the Emperor, and when he was no longer of any use to him, Anakin got his revenge. It was even sweeter than he'd imagined it would be. Skywalker turned to face his old friends, who were now joined by Padme as well. "You will not understand what I have to do to save my children. You will try to stop me, but I will do what I must." Together, he and Sidious jumped from the window, the children still in Palpatine's arms. They landed in a speeder which had been hovering below, but as they took off, Obi-Wan followed them out the window. Anakin turned and force-pushed his old master backward, watching as he descended toward the streets below, losing him in the swarm of ships and speeders as they sped away. Days would pass as Yoda, Ahsoka, Padme, and Kenobi, who had managed to catch himself on a passing speeder, sat at a standstill. They did not know where Anakin had gone, nor what he meant by what he said before he left. But the Jedi were all in agreement about one thing. Anakin Skywalker had changed. They had to lay low now as the clones continued to hunt down the surviving Jedi. They would hunker down in Padme's quarters on Coruscant, now opting for patience, having lost the possible advantage of catching Sidious off guard in the chaos. One night, under the cover of darkness, Anakin returns. He sneaks into Padme's bedroom with the twins in his arms, asking her to come with him. Lying the children down on the bed next to her, he told Padme that he had saved their children, and that he had found the place for the two of them to raise their family in peace. They would rule the galaxy, make things the way they wanted them to be. Unable to believe what she was hearing, Padme would press the alarm hidden beneath the sheets of her bed, alerting Obi-Wan that she was in danger. As Anakin continued to press Padme to join him, Obi-Wan would enter. A battle would break out as the two warriors clashed within the apartment, breaking through walls, destroying furniture, and struggling to maneuver through the home. Kenobi would be joined by Yoda and Ahsoka, who would quickly help to overpower Anakin, as he was pushed to the ground, disarmed, and now lay with 3 lightsabers pointed at his face. Simultaneously, the 3 Jedi would all withdraw their blades, giving their fallen friend one last chance to come back to them. And under these circumstances, Anakin would come to his senses. The presence of Ahsoka and the survival of both his wife and his children would dramatically change Anakin's perception of this situation. After all, the fear of losing Padme in childbirth was the driving force behind his original turn to the dark side. So with her having survived and Ahsoka also having reclaimed her place within the Jedi Order, Anakin's motivations to turn would be greatly diminished. He would rise to his feet, suddenly ashamed by his lack of vision, by his failure to recognize Palpatine's deception. He knew his actions over the last few days would hold consequences, but before that time came, the Jedi had work to do. He may have lost Anakin's assistance, but Darth Sidious remained, and his army was growing stronger by the minute. The Jedi, aside from the 4 of them in this room, had vanished, most of them dead, and the remaining few who had survived were impossible to contact. The Galactic Empire had already risen, but with Anakin having chosen the light, that reign would be short-lived. In short order, the Jedi would locate Palpatine with Anakin's knowledge, arrest him, and bring a swift end to the Empire. Anakin would be tried for the murder of Jedi Master Mace Windu, where the courts would find him innocent, instead placing blame on the deceased Darth Maul. With consideration for Skywalker's assistance in helping to destroy the Empire, as well as his highly decorated career as a Jedi Knight during the Clone Wars, Anakin would be sentenced to just 1 year in prison, for his somewhat minor contributions to the Empire's ascension. Upon his release, he would be reinstated into the Jedi Order. He and Padme would live happily on Coruscant, watching over their children as they were raised in the Jedi Temple. Luke trained by Master Yoda and Leia by Jedi Master Ahsoka Tano. Anakin would soon be granted the rank of Master, and he and Obi-Wan would return to their roles as the Jedi Order's go-to negotiators. The remaining Jedi scattered throughout the galaxy would return to the Temple, and the Order would be rebuilt once more. With Palpatine behind bars and the Sith eradicated, the galaxy would live in harmony once again, until one day, the cell which once held Darth Sidious was found empty, threatening to throw everything out of balance once again.